Welcome to today's Point to Jesus. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to introduce you to some of our guests for today. We have Maggie Wigmore, who's going to be talking about her role as a schools worker. Joe Boorne from the Association of Christian Teachers, and Alex Hillman from A Passion for Life is going to be talking about the Life 26 mission. Throughout, we're going to also be talking about resources that will help you in your work and in your roles, whether that's as an individual who is just passionate about evangelism, or as somebody working in a church or volunteering in a church, and you've been tasked with finding resources. So let's get started. We're going to start off with Lent. Now, this Point to Jesus event might seem especially early this year, and that's because Lent does start very early. So when we're thinking about getting resources into the hands of the families in our churches, or even for our own families or friends, then these are some of the resources that we like to recommend. Devotional dippers, if you have not come across them before, are a really great option if you have a family, or if you know families who have a wide age range of children. They're also quite helpful if you wanted to do something for your church and you wanted to do some kind of daily interaction, either via social media or through a WhatsApp group, or whatever means that you have to engage with your families. And in a devotional dipper pot, which you'll see here on the screen over on the left, there are 40 long sticks, which we call the dippers. And you pull one out each day, and on it there is a scripture verse, a prayer prompt, a question to go into, and they're very transportable. They're great if you're on the go parents and you've driving children here, there and everywhere. You can just have the pot in your car in the middle of the console, so you can pull one out as you're sat at the traffic lights and get one of your children to read it, or for around the dinner table. And there are various themes that you can have your devotional dippers if you want to concentrate on one of these during Lent. So prayer, the names and attributes of God, key Bible words, or wisdom. And they're a great option for the 40 days of Lent. We also have this quite interesting book. The cover might seem a bit confusing because it seems a little bit upside down, and that's because the book is actually split into two distinct halves. And the first way that you read the book is the 7 stories up to the event of Easter, and then there are 7 stories post Easter, so the resurrection and then Pentecost, etc. So you actually turn the book completely upside down and read it the other way, and so it's a really helpful and quite an interesting and different way for children to interact with those stories. And so it's 14 devotions, which would work for the 7 Sundays or 7 weeks running up to Easter, and then 7 post Easter as well, or just 7 days running up to Easter. So you could do that during that final Holy Week, and then 7 days post Easter. It's up to you. And again, if you're in church context and you're wanting this for your church, you can do this in the 7 Sunday services and the 7 Sunday services post Easter as well. The Garden, the Curtain, and the Cross, if you haven't come across this, it's a wonderful book with a repeated refrain which says, because of our sin we couldn't get in. And they produced an Easter calendar. And so it's kind of like an Advent calendar, but for Lent, and there's 15 little devotional windows to open that link into the book. And so there's a devotional resource to go with that. So it's just something a little bit different. Again, either as a family or in a church context, you could be opening up those doors. Maybe you could do 2 little windows each Sunday during Lent in the run up to Easter. And then finally, in the top right corner, who is Jesus? What a wonderful thing to consider during Lent. Who is Jesus? So this is a great book that's available for us to work through in a family context. In terms of the adults in your congregation, or teens even, we have a variety of Lent devotionals. Now you might think, actually, my church doesn't really follow a traditional calendar, and we don't really do Lent in that way. But actually, I found that being able to focus on these devotions during that period is actually really helpful. And maybe you could just throw it out there to some of the people in your church, like, oh, hey, I'm going to be getting a Lent devotion this year. Would anyone be interested in doing it with me? You can start your own WhatsApp group, or again, share on your socials each day, just maybe a verse. So we've had a variety of Lent devotionals in the past. So Finding Mercy on the Way of Sorrow is a specific Easter devotion, which goes from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday. In Quietness and Trust from Matt Sills. This includes a very interesting and helpful prayer liturgy outline for each day, and there's a Spotify song to go with that. From Glory into Glory is 54 devotions, which run from Ash Wednesday right until after Easter, which is very helpful. And then Tim Chester's Forgiven is 47 from Ash Wednesday to Easter Sunday, including Sundays. But for this year, we've got a brand new devotional called The Wondrous Cross. Now, it's actually described as being suitable for any time of the year. It doesn't have to be Lent. So maybe you think, do you know what? I'm already in a devotion. I don't really want to stop where I'm up to. But this could be something you could consider for another time of the year, because it's always a good time to be considering the cross. But it is suitable for Lent because it's 40 devotions that focus on the cross. Within each day, you've got a Bible reading, and then a reflection, and then an action point and further reading suggestions. So if you've got the time and you want to delve even further, there are further reading suggestions for each day as well. And so from the Transfiguration to the cross, this devotion covers. So this is brand new this year, and as with all our 10 publishing devotions, it is available. If you want one copy, it's £6.99, which is still a great price, but we're doing these 100 copies for £100, so just £1 each, and that's reflected in our other devotions as well. If you buy in bulk, so you can buy within your church, you can get them for just £1. And if you don't have that many people in your church, which I appreciate, not all churches do have that many people, if you chatted to a local church that you maybe work with and see if they'd like to do something like that, then it's very easy for you to split your order and work that out between you. Maggie Wigmore. Maggie works in schools, and her title is schools worker for her church. So Maggie, if you'd like to unmute yourself, would you like to explain to us what it is that your role involves?
Yeah, so I'm working in a parish on the edge of Basingstoke in Hampshire, where my husband is the vicar. I have sort of two roles, but they dovetail quite nicely together. So I lead the schools team, and I'm also a pastoral care worker, and I use both of those when I go into schools. We've got 3 primary schools in our parish. None of them are C of E schools, but we are, oh, sorry, the cat's in the way, yes. But we are welcome to go into all the schools. We're actively asked to go. In one of them, we do an assembly every other week. In another, we go in once every half term, plus the major festivals, do our e-lessons, and particularly thinking of Christmas just past and Easter coming up, we do quite a lot of Christmas and Easter activities in the schools.
I know from speaking to you in the past, you not only go into the schools, do assemblies, things like that, you also have a ministry where you give Bibles to the children in the schools. Can you tell us how that came about?
When John and I arrived here, they were already giving out Bibles to the year 2s to mark their transition from infant to junior school. I sort of reviewed what was available and settled on a Jesus Storybook Bible. And so we give those at the end of the summer term to all our year 2s to take with them to mark their, as I say, to mark their transition. we just find that they love it. I mean, the pictures are great. It's so beautifully written, and we don't get a lot of feedback, but we do get some lovely stories. I met one of the schools I was in. I think the mum, she went in to do a dinner lady. Her son was 17, and she said, "You gave him that lovely Bible. He still looks at it now." And another child whose mum reported that he'd gone straight home with it and he'd read it cover to cover that same day. So they do love it. We've also put into each class in our schools the International Children's Bible, which is quite useful because when I go in and do assemblies, I always take that Bible with me so I can say to the children, "You've got a copy of this in your class." Sorry, I can't hold it up at the moment because it's in the boot of my car from assembly yesterday, but you've got a copy in your class. You can go and look at this story and find out more if you want to as well. So we've done that. And we give the year sixes the Scripture Union, It's Your Move. I say it's from Scripture Union, but you can get it through 10 of those at a good discounted rate. And we go in with our year sixes and spend an hour or so with them, helping them think through the things about moving on into secondary school. We were using It's Your Next Step, but I was just trying to find it before I joined you, which we were giving to the families of the children coming into year R each September, but it doesn't seem to be on any website at the moment, so I don't know if it's being reprinted. But again, that always goes down well, and people are grateful for those. Yeah.
Can I ask, Maggie, the schools that you go into that you describe as being in your parish, are they all Church of England schools, or are they a mixture of community and faith schools?
They are none of them are Church of England schools. So what John and I did when we arrived here 14 years ago, we went and introduced ourselves to the heads of all the schools, asked how we could help, and it's just gradually taken on from there.
That's great. So it wasn't all in one go. It's been a bit of a gradual process, building trust,
yes.
and managing to build those relationships.
Yeah, and some of them we've got one school that is, we do the sort of Christmas and Easter stuff, but we're not getting in to do much more, and that's it's just gradually working at it. Yeah,
that's great. So do you have any advice if there's people on our webinar today who either their church doesn't currently have any involvement, or maybe only has involvement with a church that's a school that's directly linked to their church, maybe if they're in a parish and it's the same kind of link, what would your advice be?
I think would be to go in personally and ask to have some time to meet the head teacher, and to just go in and talk to them and say, we're here with a church. Hopefully the church is praying for them regularly, so you can say, we pray for you regularly, which we obviously do. How can we help you? And it may be that they say, we desperately need people to come and sit and listen to children reading. Go in and do that, because it's from that things can build up, and you can just that often gives you the opportunity to be in the staff room at break time. You can start talking to the staff, and it's just, I guess it's just trying to sort of be in there, let them know that you're praying for them, however much you're involved with them. My daughter works more in secondary schools in Reading, but just trying to think what they call it, but about once every half term, a team from her work plus the local churches take cakes and real coffee into the school, into the staff. And she says that's great, because as you're handing out a cup of coffee and a cake, the staff will talk to you. So it's things like that. Don't be set on thinking I must go in and I must tell them the gospel. Go in on their terms, as long as it fits with your theology, and let it, and hopefully it will grow from there. We had one of our schools, soon after we arrived, there was a very serious traffic accident outside the school caused by one of the mums who was sadly high on drugs. And we just went in the next day, a team of us sat in the library, and just to be there for any staff or parents as they dropped their children off, if they wanted to come and talk to us. And obviously we offered to pray with them if they wanted that. So it's things like that. It's showing that you care for them as a whole school. You're not just trying to rush in, drop the gospel and move on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's really helpful. And in terms of the Bibles that you give, so there is obviously a cost involved in such a big activity, because you know, you're talking how many Bibles would you say you give?
So we've got 3 schools with 60 children roughly in each one. So my maths isn't very good, but that's about 180, isn't it? Yeah. Big plug for 10 of those. We get a great discount. And it's something that the church regards as important. So they will give a priority to it. Yeah.
That's really important. And yeah, so absolutely, this is a great opportunity for us, even if the churches in our area are not Church of England churches or churches that have got an affiliation with the church. There is an opportunity for people to be going in. So maybe you can speak to your church leadership and see if that's something that they would be willing to maybe direct you to do, or someone else within the church to get involved with. But it's such an important and great opportunity to give Bibles, both for the classroom and for the individual children, and also to be building those relationships. We'll come on to the relationships with teachers more shortly with our next guest, but I just want to highlight some books which might be useful for people going into schools, and some ideas as well for general stuff. Oh, go on, Maggie.
Can I just say, going back to the garden, the curtain and the cross, we use that every Easter in the schools. Just read it to the children. We've got some of the pictures we can use, and they love it. And the staff who are in as well, they find it very moving. It's a really good, really. So yeah, get that on your list for Easter.
Yeah, it is great. I love it. So yeah. Some key things that we've highlighted before, but I'll highlight them again. So Shrove Tuesday this year is the 17th of February, so it's really just around the corner if you're wanting to make plans for it. And in the past, we've had people share ideas for things like a pancake party. This is a very easy invite into your community. If you want to try and find a way to invite people along, offering free pancakes seems to be a great way to bring people in. And then you can use that as an opportunity, as a springboard, to invite them to other events, to have a small gospel talk in there about why people have pancakes and how that leads into Lent and then Easter. And so it's a great opportunity. It's pretty cheap to do as well, which I know is a concern for some people, cost, because your pancake batter can be made very, very cheaply. Alongside that, if you are having a pancake party, or if you have clubs and you want to give them something as Lent begins, we've talked previously again, and I'll share a link to this after the meeting, to a previous Point for Jesus where we listed all the things. But a Lent bag is just a nice way of having a small activity or object linking to the key points in Lent, key stories about the running to Easter, stories from Jesus' ministry and from those important key points to really focus people in. So again, something you may have done before or maybe not thought about before is to do a Lent bag, either with your own church families or with those who are linked in through your different clubs. So next we're going to think about actual books that you can be giving, because as we've found, obviously we primarily sell books. We find that if you give somebody something that is something that they consider to be of value, so as well as giving them kind of like a colouring sheet, why not give them an activity book? It's something a bit more substantial, but it can be very cost effective. So we have a range of activity books on our website, including a specific Easter activity book, and then a selection of others that you might think might be helpful to give away. And then we also have a series of what we consider to be giveaway books. So in the past, we've published a variety of these, and there are many on our website, whether they are board books or smaller kind of giveaway paperbacks. Board books tend to be from about £2 a copy if you're buying large quantities, and the paperbacks from £1 a copy. So we've got a range of these that cover everything from a traditional kind of Bible story in the day the earth shook, about what happens when Jesus is resurrected, or the empty tomb, to something like Say What, which is a kind of gospel primer for children, which goes through the whole of the gospel. This year we have a brand new book. We do like to try and bring out a new children's Easter book every year, called Just As He Said. And we actually read this together in our staff devotions this morning, because it's just come into the warehouse, and our warehouse manager read it out, and we actually responded as we went through with the refrain, Just As He Said. It is a lovely rhyming book which talks through some of Jesus's interactions with people and how what he said came true. So we meet the paralyzed man who's lowered through the roof. We meet Mary and Martha when Lazarus dies. We meet the disciples on the boat when there's a storm. And then we move into then from the Jesus' death and resurrection, and how he was resurrected just as he said. So this book is not only wonderful for explaining what Easter is all about, but at the end it also has some little bits about how we can trust Jesus when things aren't exactly as we planned. So obviously in the case of the paralyzed man and the storm and the death of Lazarus, how Jesus can be with us and support us through those situations, just as he said he would. So it's a beautiful little book. It is available from just £1 a copy. So I think for this one, it's 50 copies. If you buy a 50 copy pack, because you're going to be giving them away, you can get them from just £1 a copy. Again, if you think, oh, my toddler group or my church Sunday school is not that big, could you go to a local church and say, oh, would you like to get some of these? And you can always share that between you. For toddler groups, we've also produced a PDF guide to a toddler session around this book. So it includes things like a craft idea, a colouring sheet, a prayer kind of guide, and also how do you talk about this concept of what do you do when you're scared, and how do you respond to being scared. So that's a free download on our website on this product page. So I'll again share that link in the email after this. Now, the next person I'd like to introduce is Jo. So Jo works for the Association of Christian Teachers, and so she's going to share with us how we can be supporting Christian teachers in school. So we're kind of having a bit of a schools focus today. We've thought about how we support the children in schools with our guest Maggie, and now we're going to think about how we support Christian teachers in schools, or other teachers in schools. So thank you so much, Jo, for being with us. I'm going to hand over to you.
Great, good morning. Well, teaching can be a really tough profession these days, with teachers often feeling under-resourced, unsupported and pretty stressed. So can I please be encouraging you to be praying for the teachers in your churches? It's a real frontline job. Ask them what support and pastoral care they need, and what gospel opportunities you can support them with. Remember that most teachers travel to work and they don't live near where they teach. So your local partner churches could be really helpful to them. Could you connect them with churches local to their school who could support them in their ministry? Do feel free to be pointing teachers to the ACT website. We have loads of helpful resources to encourage and equip teachers. It also has a very popular podcast, a specially curated 10 of those bookstall, assembly ideas, and a Christian perspective on big issues in the sector. Well, let me encourage you with a few examples of the gospel at work in schools. At ACT, we had a teacher who reached out to us about a year ago. She could see that there were so many young people in her secondary school asking big gospel questions, and a handful of Christian children were asking for there to be a Christian union. She was hoping that we might be able to connect her with a local church who could go in and help. Although we couldn't do that, excitingly, she was given permission from the school to start one on her own, and she's thrilled because it's going really well. We heard of another teacher who had been running a lunchtime Bible club on her own for 20 years. She was pretty exhausted and keen for support. Just yesterday, I heard of another teacher who'd been stressed and burnt out, ready to quit teaching. But then there was a new head teacher at the school, and as she was the RE lead, she was able to share some of her ideas, and the new head gave her the go-ahead. So now, 3 times a year, they have RE days. The normal timetable is stopped, and the whole day is focused on hearing who Jesus is. Every child in the school is given a Christian book, and she's already working with 10 of those on what those books are going to be. And she invites local churches in to support an array of exciting activities on those days. It's really exciting to hear about. I don't know about you, but I'm really excited by the quiet revival going on in our country. Young people are searching for the truth of the gospel like we've never seen it, and Christian young people are really going for it. They're going into their own schools and speaking of Jesus. A friend's daughter recently started a Bible study at her school for her non-Christian friends, and quite rightly, the school wanted to provide her with some appropriate support and started reaching out to local churches for someone to go along and support what was happening. So here's the challenge for all of us. What would it look like for your church if your church had such a good relationship with the local school that when an opportunity like that came along, that they come straight to you? I want to encourage you that when the school know you and trust you, all sorts of opportunities are possible. Maybe you don't know how to build that relationship with them. I'd recommend connecting with the head teacher or deputy head, just like Maggie did. Let them get to know you and ask them how you can support them as a church and see what unfolds. This is what happened with my son's primary school. I was just chatting with the head teacher on the school gate one day, and I said something like this. I was wondering whether the school would like any Christian children's books or Bibles, and if you do, can my church support you with that? She was so excited and immediately put me in touch with the RE lead. She always felt like she never had enough money in her budget and was always struggling to meet the needs. And so she asked immediately to meet with me. I went round my house and I gathered all the children's books and Bibles from my children's shelves, and I took them in to show her what kind of things were possible. And she was absolutely blown away by the amazing resources that were available. And so we talked through what her wish list would be. And then I went to my church family and I asked whether they would be able to help. And within a week, I was given a ton of cash. The wonderful team at 10 of those gave us a great discount, and we were able to take in £500 worth of books to the school to be used in every single classroom. It was amazing. But what followed was also really incredible. The RE lead asked for help in understanding Bible passages because she said she had to work so hard to understand what they were all about, and mostly she would just try and teach the children how to be better people. She asked whether there might be the possibility of having some help teaching the entire staff team how the whole Bible hangs together as one story. And she asked whether there would be people who could go into school and explain to some of the classes what it meant to them to be a Christian. For her, it was a bit of a tick boxing exercise for the curriculum, but what an amazing opportunity for the gospel. She was also keen for people to go in and do assemblies, and the list was endless. It was an extraordinary conversation, and I went home absolutely buzzing. But assemblies and CUs might not be your skill set. There are other wonderful gospel impact ways that you can support schools. There may be the opportunity to become school governor. On the ACT website, there's a really helpful podcast that we did on the role of a school governor, with guest speakers from Christian Concern and some Christian governors who see their role as a mission field. We're excited at ACT this year to be putting together a really helpful resource jointly with the Lawyers Christian Fellowship and the Evangelical Alliance called Living for Jesus in Education. And we'll be launching it at our October conference, all focused around the same theme. So please do let teachers know about it, and please do be praying for and supporting the teachers in your churches. And helping them to look for opportunities to be building gospel connections with the local schools.
Thank you, Jo, and what an encouraging what an encouraging opportunity that we've got to support teachers and our Christian teachers. I'll just share that within my church there seems to be a lot of teachers. I think proportionally we seem to have quite a lot of teachers, and one of them is very local to the church building, and she recently was able to arrange a group from our church and from the local churches to go in and do a prayer spaces activity. And so I think it was all of the juniors were able to go through and spend time doing this prayer spaces activity, and the children and the staff enjoyed it so much they've already been invited back to do it with more year groups. So, and that was because one of the teachers, who is a Christian, had brought it up with the leadership and said, do you think it's going to be a possibility? And then engaged with the people in our church who are skilled in that way. And then it was a real collaboration in inviting other local churches to get involved in that too. And then the second thing is, my husband is trained in walk through the Bible, if anyone is aware of that. And so he offered that to our son's primary school and said, if you like, I can come in and do walk through the Bible. And now he has a regular spot with the year fives where he goes in for a block of 6 weeks doing the walk through the Bible with them. And he's also done it with other local schools as well. But the relationship that we already had with our children's school meant that it was something that they were, I think, probably a little bit more, it was an easy yes from them because they knew us and they knew what we stood for. And so he was able to go in and do that. And again, it's not just Church of England or faith schools that are willing to do activities like that. It is a lot of schools that are community schools because they know that they need to deliver RE in that way. And so somebody offering to come in for free and to deliver a course like that is for them a wonderful thing. So I hope that you've been encouraged by Maggie and Jo talking about schools, because as Jo mentioned, there is this great interest amongst young people about truth. What is true? They look online, they see AI, they see all this kind of fake news and fake stuff, and they want to know what is the truth. And so a lot of young people, especially teens, are delving more into what Christianity is about. I'm going to hand over now to Tim.
Thanks, Bethan. Easter, the reason why we do point to Jesus at this point of the year is because Easter is such a phenomenal opportunity for us to share the gospel message. And there's all sorts of creative ways that we can do that as churches. Some of them are there on the screen because we've kind of compiled them. But things like a musical event with a gospel message, it's a really it's a really common thing for people to go and listen to some live music. That's kind of normal in our culture. And so the ability to put on a musical event and then tie it in with a gospel message is just a really super thing if you have the people and the skills to do something like that. Something like an Easter Fun Day or a craft event, something that will encourage non-Christians from the community to come and just see you as a group of normal people and to walk alongside you a little bit and give you the opportunity to invite them along to Easter services, to maybe evangelistic follow-up things, to give them a good book, or just to so that they know that you're there, so that when the trials of life come, as they inevitably will, they won't look at your building and think, oh, I don't really know, I don't really want to approach them, but they'll look at your building and go, oh yeah, I remember that time that I spent with them, and they come to us. Another thing that we can do is put on an Easter movie. There are some great Christian films. There are some superb non-Christian films as well. And we can watch those with our community, invite them in, make sure that you get all the appropriate licenses and things for doing that. But it's a superb thing that we can do. And we can invite people along. And then we can provide them with some evangelistic resources off the back of that. We produce a new evangelistic book every year for Easter. I'm sure many of you have seen some of these. Graham Album's How One Weekend was last year's. It is superb. Graham was a BBC producer who's now a gospel minister, and he just has a really nice way of framing things. Maybe you have a bunch of lawyers in your area. Maybe you're in a city. Something like Val Greaves, Your Verdict on the Empty Tomb would be perfect for them, because they were a lawyer themselves, and they just have that way of conveying things. Our new one for this year is The Man on the Middle Cross. It's by Alistair Begg, who's so well known. He's a Scot, kind of like myself, so I have that appreciation of him. Sadly, he's defected to the States, but he's a good gospel minister nonetheless. And he just really helpfully walks through three people who engage with Jesus through his gospel ministry. And then ties it together. In fact, we have a brilliant little video. Many of you might have seen this clip. Sorry if it's a repeat, but it's a fantastic little video.
The man on the middle cross said, I can come. Now, that is the only answer. That is the only answer.
We have taken the little clip, The Man on the Middle Cross, and have turned it essentially into a really simple and helpful book.
It's a short book, but it's going through these three stories of which you retell the stories, but then you draw out the application of the gospel, that Jesus knew the woman, he knew the man's greatest need, the paralyzed man, and he invites us to come.
It is an easy thing to put in your front porch when you're receiving deliveries, and to make it available to those who come by. In fact, there's no end to the ways in which we can use this book to present Jesus to others. So avail yourself of as many as you can, and use them as widely as you can.
That's a little bit of the heart behind the book. It is a superb little read, and with all of these evangelistic books that we're talking about, they're all available at the 100 for the £1 price that we do those at. But maybe you're thinking, oh, I have a few kids in the church that I could give an evangelistic book away to. I have, a few people that I might want to give an evangelistic book away to, but actually we'd have much more people that we would give a tract to on the street while we're out there, or we have a few people that we give a magazine to. We've put together this little bundle, this little box to kind of give you a little taster of everything. So there's 10 kids books in there. There's 8 adult books, including The Man in the Middle Cross. 2 of those kid books actually are nice hardback books as well, hardback versions of The Friends and the Traveller. There's a handful of magazines. There's 100 tracts, 50 of each, and then there's 2 Bibles as well, so that you have those to have a little look at and give them away. And it should be well over £100. We've slashed the price down to 25 because we really love these resources. We think that they're superb, and we really want you to be able to make the most of them. And maybe this isn't right for the church. Maybe the church needs to buy 100 of Man in the Middle Cross. But you personally, you want to be able to give a little gift away to some non-Christian friends. You want to be able to do the little giving stuff to delivery drivers from your front porch. This would be perfect for that sort of application. If you're looking for tracts separately, we have loads of great options. This is just a smattering that you'll see on the screen here. Real Hope was superb from a couple of years ago. How did someone like me end up in a place like this? Also absolutely fantastic. Well worth having a little look at. All of these, you can get the full samples of them on the website if you want to have a little read of the inside before you give it away to somebody, and that would be a superb use of your funds. Let me hand back to Bethan as we talk about planning ahead for the next seasons.
Thanks, Tim. So yeah, obviously this is called Point to Jesus. It's Easter, but actually we want you to be thinking about how you can be using opportunities for the whole year to be pointing to Jesus. I think it was not last year, the year before, we had a specific webinar all about how to make the most of secular events. And I'll put a link to that in the email that I send out, because we've got the recording and the blog that coordinates with that. But let's have a think through some of the opportunities before I introduce our next guest. So we're thinking about 2026. Just the first half of the year, let's think about things like Valentine's Day. And whether you know this or not, it's actually International Give a Book Day on Valentine's Day, which is perfect for giving away a gospel book to a friend of the family, a child or a neighbour, for International Give a Book Day. How perfect is that? Then Lent begins, as we've said, on the 17th of February. So once we're in that Lenten period, there's opportunities there for being able to invite people along to things for Easter. Mothering Sunday is the 15th of March. Again, a great opportunity for inviting people into your church if you have a special service, or maybe you could plan an evangelistic event where you have, I've heard of people doing kind of a mother's pamper day. So you invite maybe the mums from your toddler group to come along and have their nails done and have like a hand massage or something like that, and just be pampered a little bit. And again, there's the opportunity to share the gospel, to give a book or a gift or a chocolate. Again, lots of great ideas that we've heard in the past. April the 3rd is Good Friday. You may have a service where you can invite people along, and they might stay for a meal or some kind of activity. Or obviously moving on from that, over the Easter weekend, you might be involved in either a local Easter trail or a specific one that you might run for your community. So there's lots of opportunities over Easter. We've talked about many in the past. We're trying to keep our ideas fresh this year, so I won't go into too much detail about those things we've talked about before. But again, all our previous Point to Jesus webinars and blogs are available to watch and to read through. Father's Day is the 21st of June, another date to get into your mind. Again, we've pampered the mums. Maybe you could have a special day for the dads where you invite the dads along from the kids groups that you have. Tell them that the dads are invited along. It's up to you what you do on that day. You could have a Lego building activity. You could have a pub quiz type quiz. Food would always be top of the list for the men, I'm sure, and for the women. And so definitely have a think about how you can be plugging into these activities and opportunities throughout the year. Sporting highlights. Again, it's good to have these in your mind at the start of the year so you can be planning ahead. It is actually the Winter Olympics in February. Our church are having a men's event, which is a kind of Olympics themed event in February. Why not think about that now, or think ahead to the World Cup? So World Cup is going to be a big thing this summer, June, July. Could you do an evangelistic event themed around that? Could you open up your church to host one of the England matches on the big screen, do check your licensing, but it tends to be that for things that are public events that are available on public platforms like the BBC, you should be able to do that. You don't need to make a charge, but again, do check. We've got information about what you can and can't share on one of our previous blogs. Then we've got the Commonwealth Games in the summer as well. So it is quite a big year sports-wise with the Olympics, the World Cup and the Commonwealth Games. And then October, November, we've got the Rugby League World Cup if you're in a rugby league town, and they'd be interested in that. Just want to highlight two particular tracts. One that is brand new is called Who is the Real GOAT? And if you've got no idea what that means, it means the greatest of all time, and it is relating to footballers. So it's specifically been brought out to be usable for the World Cup, but it talks about great footballers, but actually who is the real greatest of all time? Well, Jesus, of course. And 2026 is the 500th anniversary of the Tyndale New Testament being published in full. Last year, we were thinking about it from the perspective of the first book of the New Testament being published, but 2026 is the 500th anniversary of the whole New Testament from Tyndale. So we have a tract available, and we talked previously about doing a Bible reading event to time with that. You could engage a group of people who are given a slot to read through the whole of the New Testament. Again, there is a real push at the moment for people to be getting hold of Bibles, so that could be a really interesting event. I'm going to introduce now our guest, Alex. Alex is from A Passion for Life, and so she's here to talk to us about the Life 26 missions and how we can think about not just Easter, but also other points in the year when we can be using different activities and events to point to Jesus. So welcome, Alex. It's great to have you with us. Please do share with us what Life 26 is all about.
Hi, thank you for having me. As Bethan said, I'm Alex. I work for A Passion for Life, and we help churches to think about evangelism. We help everyday Christians to do evangelism in whatever context they're in, and part of the way we do that is through the Life 26 mission. This is something we do every 4 years, a nationwide campaign. Currently, there are about 300 churches signed up to join us in Life 26. And we will be going around the country asking the question, ever feel like something's missing, really taking advantage of this kind of current moment we're in. You might have heard people talk about a quiet revival or a great opportunity where people are interested in finding out more about Jesus, and we're really excited to kind of meet them there as they ask those questions. And so we have kind of two sides of this. You can see those videos there. These are for small groups or for individuals to use, and they're really just designed to help normal Christians to become more confident in evangelism. There are some people who find it really easy. I'm sure for most of us, evangelism is not that easy. I'm not a great evangelist. It's hard to know what to say at the right moment. It's so many fears and pressures, and some of these videos are just brilliant at addressing some of those concerns, questions, fears, really helping us to understand what God wants us to do as individuals. And those are out and available now. Your church can sign up to watch them, or you can sign up as an individual to watch them. And the idea behind them is that they will gear us up towards March 2026, where we launch our national campaign. And that big question there, ever feel like something's missing, really addressed to help people think about their lives to kind of answer that question. We've done some national polling and really found that almost a third of people would say that purpose is missing from their lives, hope, meaning. But very few understand that it's God that they're really missing. And as Christians, we know that that's the answer to their kind of fears and concerns. So we're helping them to join those dots together. There's a whole bunch of mission resources that we've produced for this. Some of those in partnership with 10 of those have been brilliant. These two tracts there, you can see that Graham Albans has written, kind of based on his book, 1 Weekend to Change Your Life. And there's a tract being written as well by Rico Tice. But we will be producing all of this mission publicity. It's totally available on our website for subscribers to be able to download, make their own posters, flyers. There's a group of churches down in Sussex making a billboard and clubbing together, which is a really exciting idea and great way of being creative with it. And we're really passionate that local churches are in the steering seat of this. And we can provide you all the resources, we can give you the training, but you know your area, you know your context, and we don't want to have control over that. We want to give churches total control. So we'll be providing everything you need, resources to do local surveys, resources to kind of make posters, start conversations with people. And some churches will be putting on new events. We've heard some great ideas in this webinar about events you could run in whatever context you're in, whether that's in your church or in your community. But for some churches, putting on events will be too much of a stretch. It's a busy year. There's lots you can do. So we've got churches that are using the Sundays leading up to Easter, for example, themed around that kind of something missing question. Which is a great way of using what you already have, your existing groups. So we're really excited about Life 26, but we're hoping to share that excitement with you guys and encourage you to have a look at our website, have a look at the resources we have, and see if that could be something that works in your context. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Alex. I will say, my church have used the videos that you had on your website previously, and they're excellent. They're quite short, and you don't have to watch them all in one go. You can just look through them, or kind of engage people to look through them maybe once a week and say like, oh, watch this week's video. But they are really helpful, again, addressing some of those key issues that people think like, oh, I'm not an evangelist, or, how do I start a conversation, or how, what kind of events do we run, or what courses. So they're excellent. It's a really good series of resources, the videos that I often point people to. And as Alex has said, on the Passion for Life website, there is a whole bank of resources that tie in specifically to the Life 26 mission. So posters that you can download and customize, leaflets, flyers, social media graphics. So if you think, you know what, we'd like to do something, but we're not very savvy in that respect, everything has been thought of and prepared. So alongside these resources, there are practical resources for you to share with your team. So if this is something that you've not heard of or not thought of, do head to the Passion for Life website and check it out. It doesn't have to, so I know it launches in March, but you could do your events maybe later in the year. If you think, oh, I've not got time, there's no way we can turn something around before March. This is a whole year mission. It's just launching in the run up to Easter, because that is a time when a lot of people do think it's a good point to really move into that. But it's something that you can be thinking of for later in the year, and maybe speak to, again, other local churches who align with you theologically to see if they wanted to go and do something together, or do a series of events where your church do one thing and their church do another, but all tied together under the same banner of is there something missing. So I'm going to hand now over to Tim, who's going to talk to us about some of our other resources that also tie in with this.
The last thing, the kind of big last evangelistic thing I want to point you towards is the Life magazine. Bethan's the editor of this. She does a fantastic job of it every time. We produce it twice a year. If you've never seen it before, it's full of testimonies and gospel stories alongside other kind of material. And this one, it's just very, very strong, this edition. It has a story of a recent Christian footballer, so it ties in well to the World Cup. It has some great articles that tie into the Passion for Life mission, with this cover that really ties in nicely to their kind of big question as well. But it also has some excellent other things. It has this from Despair to Decluttering, Dana White. Some of you may follow her on YouTube. Funnily, my wife has listened to her stuff on YouTube for a while. Didn't really know much about her apart from that, and then suddenly she's appearing in our Life magazine, and she just really provides a lovely little additional thing there. But one of the things notice is this chap who planned to kill Billy Graham. Anyone over the age of 50 is definitely gonna be able to get caught by that story, because they'll know who Billy Graham was. They'll maybe remember some of the campaigns that he ran. Maybe they were at some of them, and that will hopefully then be a really interesting little article for them. And it's an amazing story as to what God did with that chap. They're all available. These magazines are available at 500 for 25 pence each. But if you're buying more than 500, if you're buying kind of 2,000 plus, we can then start making it more specific for your circumstance. So we can start printing your church details on the back cover, or invites to local services. We can start putting names and logos on the front page, or maybe even completely redesigning the front cover with an image of your town or your church, so long as you have high-res images to do that. And we'd love to make that work for you. We can even get it out through the post system. That's all requires a little bit more conversation, but do email us, do find out if you're thinking that you might want to do something along like that. We'd love to partner with you in that. And then kind of thinking forward to when you have these folk in your churches, to maybe they come back a second week or a second month, and make sure that you have other resources to give out to them, and other things that you can invite them along to. And make sure you have some Gospels, some New Testaments, and some Bibles. Here's the prices of each one. Maybe you're going to be running a series in a gospel. Have a stack of gospels that you can hand out to people, so that someone who's not very au fait with the Bible doesn't have to kind of work out where the New Testament is and where Matthew begins. Or maybe get some of our outreach Bibles. These are a superb resource. They're available from just £2 each, and they are really phenomenal. And there are some great stories that have come from these Bibles. I think they've disappeared off this page, but we can be really creative with these. You buy a box of 40, and you maybe think, oh, I could never give 40 away. Well, there was a lady who got in touch with us saying that she was turning 100, and she bought a box of 40 so that she could put a little personalized note in the front of each of them and give them to her 37 grandkids. Isn't that a lovely little gift that she could just pass on? And now, maybe most of us don't have 37 grandkids, but it just gives you a little idea of the sort of thing that you could do. And, a box of 40 split between 10 families, they very quickly can disappear into different homes and get handed out left, right, and centre. I'm sure this would be a phenomenal resource if you wanted to get the Bible into lots of people's hands. And then if you want to kind of then engage further with people, plan a follow-up course. Invite people to a follow-up course and have that printed on the back of the Life magazine that you get done. Christianity Explored have some superb courses. Life Explored is one of their more recent ones. I think it's slightly shorter. It's kind of 7 episodes, I think it is. And it has these really fun kind of quiet videos that kind of get people thinking a little bit. There's things like this new Discover course from Dave Jensen in Australia. The book is phenomenal, and it has all of its videos for free online, so you can go and have a little look at that. But that could be a great thing that you could use and adapt to your circumstances. The Word One-to-One. If you have folks who have never engaged with the Bible at all and want to know what the Bible's all about, the Word One-to-One's a phenomenal way to get them plugged into John's Gospel and read through it with them, you and them. It's a brilliant little tool. And things like 321 or those courses from Speak Life, they're really phenomenal. Have some great visuals, some great resources that tie them on. Thinking just ever so slightly further ahead, there are some new gospel tracts coming. Sadly, they're not available right this second, but there's a whole range coming. Some of them are coming in March, some of them are coming further on in the year through into the summer. But do keep a little eye out for these if you use gospel tracts. If maybe you've thought about using gospel tracts but you just haven't quite seen the right one for your situation, there's going to be a whole wider range coming very soon. And that buried treasure one looks like a great resource to use for maybe kids clubs, if you have some pirate themed kids clubs coming in the summer. Let me hand back to Bethan to lead us through Q&A.
Thanks, Tim. Yeah, so in terms of the Q&A, I didn't see lots of questions, but I did see some questions, and they were in the chat. Let me just swoop back up. So the first question from Sarah was, would the devotional dippers work as a starting activity for a youth group / Christian schools group? Absolutely. They are a great little kind of little starter activity, because it can be as much or as little as you choose to discuss about it. So it's just a short verse and then a question, and how much you delve into that is up to you. And there is also the fun element of you pull out the dipper. So who's going to choose it this week? And then they're designed so that when you've used them, you put them back in the other way around, and it's got a dark strip at the top, so you know what's already been pulled out. So that's quite handy. Somebody asked about which Bible that Maggie was given to year twos. Maggie responded in the chat to say the Jesus Storybook Bible, a very popular choice. Which films would you recommend for an Easter movie event? I'll answer that, and then I'll refer to somebody in the chat as well. So Easter movies. Ideally, if we are doing something that's going to point to Jesus, it's going to be something which shares about Jesus's death and resurrection. So for children or for a family event, obviously the Miracle Maker is a great option. There are other films that you could use that think about that. King of Kings, if you've not seen this, it's quite a recent film that came out, which focuses on I think it does feel a little bit more festive in terms of Christmassy, but it does very clearly look at Jesus' life and could easily be used for an Easter event. Again, make sure that you've got the right permissions if you're sharing a DVD. You can often go onto the internet and find a way of getting a license for a one-off event like that. Amanda in the chat has put, she works for Open the Bible, which is one of our partner organisations, and we shared last year in last year's Easter Point to Jesus that there is a video resource called Heaven How I Got Here, and it's a dramatisation of that book. And so that's free to download from the Open the Bible website, and you can show that. It is more of an adult film. It's just because it's kind of like a monologue of the thief on the cross, but it's definitely something that you could think about in that respect. Tim or any of our guests, has anyone else got any ideas for Easter films?
Brianna's just jumped in there with Risen from 2016.
Yes, so this was a secular film, I believe, but looking at the story around Jesus' resurrection. And so we did a tract at the time about it, which focused in on that. So that's another one to look for. And we'll put our thinking caps on and see if we can think of any more before I send out my email and to include in the blog. Amanda from Open the Bible has also mentioned that they're in the process of launching a new graphic novel for 8 to 14-year-olds called Heaven How I Got Here. Again, the story of the thief on the cross. We always find that this is kind of like a missing group. The 8 to 14s are often missing. We do a lot of younger books and we do adult books, but this is quite a difficult age group to produce for, because they're kind of they feel a little bit too old for a storybook, but they're not quite there in terms of the adult books. So that will be really exciting. I don't believe it's on the website yet, but hopefully by the time the full blog goes out, that we'll be able to share the link for that, and that'll be a great opportunity to go in with teens and those older primary ages. Amanda has also mentioned that in 10 Giving, which is a sister organisation to 10 of those. It's not run by 10 of those in that respect. If you as a church don't have the resources, the funding to be able to pay for some of these things, you can apply for a grant. And that can be that you can say, like, I would really love some books for this quiz night that I'm running, or for this craft event that I'm running, to be able to give to people. And so 10 Giving will then be able to say, great, we will find and send to you the resources that you need. And so that's a great charity. If you've not heard of it, we'll make sure the link goes out later. And also, not only can you apply for grant from there, you can also support that. So as an individual, if you think, do you know what, I would love to be able to just support that ministry for churches who are unable to pay for themselves, you can do that. You can go and donate to 10 Giving, and you can also be praying for 10 Giving, because the Board of Trustees, I think Amanda's one of them, they have to review all the people who apply for grants and decide, you know, if they're able to support them. So do pray for that team of trustees and for the team over at 10 Giving as they make those decisions. Joe has suggested the Case for Christ film. That is another good shout as well. And I think I don't want to missay, but there's a relatively new Jesus film that looks at a revival in America in the 70s, I want to say, and I can't think what it's called. It might be called the Jesus Movement, but I'll double check the name of that and share that too. Great. I don't think there's any more questions, but I do want to thank you. We have run over slightly. I apologise for that. But thank you so much to our guests for all the things that they've shared with us, and the wisdom and the experiences that they've shared. Thank you for coming along, whether that is live or whether you're watching this back, and being with us. We do pray that you would be both challenged and enthused from what you've heard today, to be putting into practice some of these ideas, whether as an individual, you know, you're going to say, I'm going to buy that evangelistic giveaway box, and I'm going to write a note, and I'm going to pass a book to my neighbour or to my neighbour's children and say Happy Easter, you know, along with maybe a little biscuit or chocolate or whatever. Or whether you're really like, right, I'm going to get a group of my church together, we're going to plan an event for this Life 26 mission, maybe engaging with some other churches. On whatever level you feel that God has given you the resources and the time for, we pray that this Easter and the rest of this year you will be pointing to Jesus.